Tragic video shows the moments a toddler was killed by an Uber. We're answering all the legal questions that you've had about this story. And the arrest of the little rascals. These kids caught robbing a Houston bank. Also coming up, a woman sets a record for the amount of bonds that she's racked up here in Harris County. All those stories coming up right here on Fox 26 Crime Files. I'm Abigail Dye, but first, we're going to talk about a real player who got himself caught up with 10 wives. This guy, 51-year-old Orlando Coleman, is going to spend 3 years behind bars for marrying 3 different women. Now, he caught this sentence last week, but this wasn't his first time getting caught. He actually pleaded guilty to bigamy in 2023 for being married to a Harris County woman and Virginia woman at the same time. And while on probation for that, he married a third out of Kentucky. The Harris County DA says while under the guise of a traveling bishop, he married 10 women in different states. Now, you absolutely cannot make this stuff up. And it's something that I've been reporting on crime for years, and I haven't ran into this at this point. I'm joined now by attorney Ruby Bolton, who is going to give us a little bit of insight here. So I said I haven't seen this before. Have you?
I've got to say no. I do a lot of divorce. I have been doing that for 30 years, so I've seen lots of instances where there's an argument, are they really married? You know, Texas, we have informal marriage known as common law, so we've got lots of arguments about whether or not there is a marriage. But no, most of my clients, they're coming to me to get divorced, so they know it's not okay to go out and get married again until that's over.
And so you are a divorce attorney.
Yes.
And like I was asking you earlier, is this in any way legal here in Texas? Can you have more than one wife?
Absolutely not. In fact, when you go to get a marriage license, you have to sign an affidavit. And one of the things on that affidavit is, I am not currently married to anyone else.
Okay, so when this guy allegedly, did this 10 times over, he signed multiple affidavits lying, saying that he was single.
Absolutely. And that's just what he did in front of a government official in an office. Obviously, he lied to all those women a lot more times than that.
Right. No, and that's what's so hard for me to wrap my head around. Like, my heart really goes out to these poor women.
Oh, I know.
I can't imagine what they're dealing with. And how did this happen? I mean, is there any national database to keep track of different marriages in different states?
You know, these days in the computer age, it seems like that would be a real given, right? But there's not. In fact, not only is there not a national database to where this woman could have said, hey, before I marry this guy, let me just make sure he's not married to anyone else.
Right. It's something I want to check now.
Right? Well, there isn't even one in the state of Texas. So, like, divorce is a statewide thing, and marriage is a statewide thing, but the recording of the marriages is only done on a county level.
Right.
So if you want to find out if someone's married or not, we do keep a license, I mean a record of marriage licenses. But for instance, if I thought that somebody, let's say they lived in Houston, right? And obviously I want to check the Harris County records.
Yeah.
But wait, maybe they went and got married on Lake Conroe, or they went and got married in Austin. The marriage license is going to be filed in the county where the marriage is performed.
So you would have to check every county everywhere, which is impossible, to see if someone is actually married or not.
And Texas has so many counties.
Yeah, no doubt.
So many.
My goodness.
So, yes.
So, and I think that's a question on a lot of people's mind, like, how did these 10 women not know? But that's the answer right there. I mean, out of the thousands and thousands of counties all over the U.S., how are you supposed to check every single one?
Right. So I understand there are some states that have a statewide database.
Okay.
But most don't. And Texas definitely doesn't. In fact, a lot of our counties, it's not even online.
Right.
We're working towards that, but we're not there yet. So no, I think if somebody is wanting to sleuth, background check, social media search might be a better way to check.
Yeah, it sounds like it at this point. And okay, so moving on to the topic of polygamy.
Yes.
I know that that's a practice that, some people are into, and you say that it is absolutely illegal to have multiple wives, husbands, what have you, here in the state of Texas. What about in other states?
So, multiple wives is polygamy, multiple husbands is called polyandry.
Oh.
It's a lot more rare. And both of them are completely illegal anywhere within the United States. Now,
Okay.
there are countries where it is legal, and in fact, there are countries where it's still very common. But here in the United States, not for 150 years or more.
Okay, so if you want to, practice having multiple husbands or wives, then you have to go out of the country. There's no gray area here in the United States. You're not going to get away with it.
Right, but it's not just you have to go out of the country to get married. You have to go out of the country to live with your multiple spouses.
Right, it won't even be legitimate here.
No.
And so, like we were kind of touching on earlier, when it comes to background checking and trying to make sure this doesn't happen to you, that the man you marry isn't marrying multiple women to try to defraud them, what can we do? What should we be looking for?
Well, I think that first off, don't get married to someone if you don't feel like you really know them.
Yeah.
So it is so romantic in the movies and stuff to get swept off your feet, and here's this dashing stranger. Not in this particular case, but let's say sometimes a dashing stranger or whatever, and you want to get married right away.
And go elope and
How well do you really know them, right? Do you know their family? Do you know their childhood friends? I mean, if you know somebody to the point that you're wanting to, be married to them the rest of your, till death do you part, have you met their family? Have you met their friends? Who did they grow up with? Most people, when they're getting into that type of long-term intimate relationship, you're meeting people that have known them a long time, and a lot of them. And I would also say another tip is, how private are they with their phone? So
Ooh, she's bringing up the phone. She is bringing up the phone.
I'm not saying that you should have each other's passwords and scroll through the phone, because obviously that can kind of lead to a whole other area of problems.
Okay.
But if you've got a situation where somebody's phone is ringing or texting in the middle of the night and they're like,
Hiding it from you?
Hiding it from you, keeping it away, giving you explanations that don't really add up.
Uh-huh.
Maybe you want to think, how well do I know this person?
All
What are
right.
they trying to hide? It's just not natural behavior.
Yeah, so let's not ignore these red flags when people put them out. It's coming straight from a divorce attorney, okay? So we
Absolutely.
can
There are a
trust that
lot of
advice.
red flags out there. And
Uh-huh.
I will tell you, I have had a lot of people in my office that are like, I should have known. There was indications so early on.
Right.
Why didn't I react then?
And everything is, 2020 and retro, but in this case, it ended up this man was married to 10 women, so
Oh
it
my
can
gosh.
it can really end bad. Anything else that you want to add? You think we should know about the whole situation?
Well, I think that the important thing is that if you're wanting to get married to somebody, that you spend enough time with them to really know what their motivations are. One of the reasons that this man got sentenced to 3 years behind bars, aside from the fact he broke his probation, is that the finding was that he was clearly doing it for financial gain. He
Right.
was taking advantage of these women. He was getting free room, board, other money from them, which is another flag, right? Is this person independent, self-sufficient, or are they wanting you to constantly be paying them something?
Right. No, that's a great tip, and it really does. Again, it really just makes your heart go out to these women.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's terrible that you can't trust.
I know. Yeah. Well, watch those red flags, ladies. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much for being here, Ruby. I appreciate your
Thank you
input.
for having me, Abigail. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right, moving on here to some much younger men getting themselves into some trouble. The little rascals that robbed a bank, according to the FBI. 11, 12, and 16 years old, these kids. They're accused of walking into a Wells Fargo bank in Greenspoint and demanding money from the teller. Now they're in custody, but the question is, what kind of trouble should these kids really be getting in?
My mama whooped my ass.
They have to be held responsible somehow, I think. I mean, that's hard. It just depends on, I guess, what's happening in the household.
The circumstances.
Yep.
Since somebody has to take the fall for it, but I think it's a large stretch to make the parents get, have to do something about it, get in trouble about that.
I'd be mad at my son.
Yeah.
But I'd be like, son, how did you get away? Like,
You need to figure it out.
I'm trying to figure something out. How did you get away? Just let me know how you get away and I can figure out the rest for you. We gonna have a master plan when you come home, you hear me? Nah, but let me stop playing.
Yeah.
That ain't right, y'all young ones. Don't be doing that.
That was a good interview. Well, ultimately, that one's going to be up to the FBI. Moving on here, the most bonds granted to one person in breaking bond history. At 26, this Houston woman has had more bonds set than career criminals see in their entire lifetime. Randy Wallace has that one for us.
Most people don't have this many bonds in their lifetime. For this individual to have this many bonds in a year is astounding.
You can't point a finger at just one judge for helping Aubrey Danelle Davis continue her alleged crime spree. Judges in Harris, Galveston, Fort Bend, and Brazos all had a chance to stop her, but chose not to.
This person has no idea that they can't do anything but to run amok.
A Harris County judge was the first to give Davis a big break back in 2020 by sentencing her to 4 years of deferred probation for robbery.
They early terminated her and classified her as a success.
A little more than a month after getting off probation, Davis began racking up bonds.
There were PR bonds on misdemeanors. There were PR bonds on felonies.
Between June 16th and December 14th of last year, Davis was granted 13 bonds here in Harris County, 3 felonies and 10 misdemeanors. Between January of last year and January of this year, Davis posted 1 felony bond in Galveston County. She also has a felony theft bond in Fort Bend County and a bond for misdemeanor theft in Brazos County.
Now keep in mind, you're on bond when you're being charged with all these other crimes.
Davis was arrested earlier this month, charged with aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. According to court docs, she and an accomplice stole sandwiches from this Subway on South Shepherd. They allegedly ran over an employee chasing after them, causing that employee, quote, significant injuries to her entire body, internal injuries, severe abrasions, and lung damage.
Which never should have happened because this person never should have been out on bond.
This Breaking Bond segment aired on March 19th, Aubrey Davis's 26th birthday.
I hope you have many, many more happy birthdays behind bars.
Randy Wallace, Fox 26 News.
A tragic accident bringing up a lot of questions. The video that you're about to see shows the moment an Uber ran over a toddler. Then a group of adults attacked that Uber driver. After we showed you this video, we got a lot of questions concerning the legality around what happened. I brought those questions to an expert. Taking a look at this video, we have multiple parties involved. We have an Uber driver, we have adults who appear to assault that Uber driver. Who can face legal ramifications here?
When we look at the video, obviously the first person you think about is the driver. And to find somebody criminally liable for someone's death, you have to look at their mental state. You could determine somebody intentionally did something, that'd be murder. You could say they knowingly did it, that would also be murder. But then the two that may be applicable here, depends on how you look at things, would be criminally negligent homicide or manslaughter, which basically means reckless homicide. And so depending on the mental state of that driver at the time, that would depend on his criminal culpability.
And as for the other adults in this video, I know that you said caretakers have a responsibility over the safety of the child. Could they be looking at any ramifications?
Yes, the law says that when you have the responsibility of taking care of a child, you have to do that in a reasonable way, in a safe way. And so you might also say that the caretaker of the child could be guilty of criminally negligent homicide if they should have been aware of a substantial and unjustifiable risk, and that could be interpreted to be that a small child going from one side of a car to another to get home unaccompanied by an adult, a jury might determine that that was criminally negligent.
As for the adults who seem to be assaulting the Uber driver in the video, what does all of this mean for them?
So the law says you can protect individuals and you can protect yourself. Obviously, someone had just been killed, a child had just been killed there, but the law also says the threat has to be immediate. It has to be right then. And at the time that he is being hit or punched by the other people in the video, he does not appear to be an immediate threat to anybody. He's not even moving erratically. He looks confused by what's happened, which also kind of relates to his mental state. When you're trying to look at someone's mental state, you look at their actions before, during, and immediately after the event. And to that part of time, it didn't look like he was a threat to anybody.
At face value, looking at this video, does it seem like there will be any charges pressed on anyone, or was this just a tragic accident?
Not every tragedy involves criminal behavior, and it all relates back to the mental state. And from what I saw in the video, I don't think any person there wanted this to happen, and it doesn't appear that extreme negligence or a gross deviation from the standard of care happened. Because of that, to me, it looks like a tragedy.
Now we have a very sad update here for you on a story that we broke on Crime Files last week. 17-year-old Christopher Flores, who was fighting for his life in the hospital, has tragically passed away. It was nearly 2 weeks after Flores took a pill that he didn't know was laced with fentanyl. LaPorte police are investigating, and they say homicide-related charges could be on the table for the dealer involved. Well, that is it for this week's Fox 26 Crime Files. I'm Abigail Dye. I'll see you next week.